students and graduated students who will share with us their experiences on developing themselves. So before we begin, just a few notes. Please mute your microphones if you have not already done so. And also, please, during this webinar, if you have any questions for the speakers, keep them in mind until the end, because we are going to have a discussion later. So now we are going to open this webinar with a welcoming speech from Mrs. Zakia Abdelrahman and Mrs. Anne Fadi. Mrs. Zakia is a professor and a coach in personal development, and she's a soft skill expert. So with her effort and her time, she helped most of her students develop their personality, including me, of course. And she helped us understand ourselves better. So please welcome Professor Zakia Abdelrahman. So Professor, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ali, for this introduction. So good morning, honorable guests. Good morning, dear teacher, dear students, dear audience. Thank you for accepting the invitation. And many thanks to Mrs. Jihan Labir and Mr. Skalli and students who accepted willingly to animate this webinar and to share their expertise with our students. I extremely extend my warmest welcome to and thanks to all students and especially to the Students Committee, which is behind the organization of this webinar, and also to all second-year students and Master Miola, as they responded positively to this initiative with engagement, empathy, and self-involvement. Since 6 years, we have chosen to organize these seminars consistently for students to gain information, to be effectively associated with personal development, which cover activities that improve awareness and identity, develop talent and potential, build human capital, and facilitate employability, enhance the quality of life, and contribute to realize their dreams and their aspirations. It is also a kind of collective coaching that develops their sense of leadership and their branding image in order to help them to reveal their hidden talent, improve their potential, fix their personal and professional objective, and overcome their psychological problems. As we live in society that measure the IQ through quantitative metrics, you complete assignments, come to school, learn concept, get exam, and you get the A. But unfortunately, in the workplace, complements will deal more with the use of soft skills, that is the emotional intelligence, than hard skills. Charles Darwin said, it's not the strongest or most intelligent who will survive, but those who can manage change. We all know the world has dramatically changed. Responding to this change in a major challenge to our education system, teachers and schools, we need to think about a way to prepare our young students for their future. Transmission of knowledge can be no longer enough. The curriculum reform has to put equal value on language, skills, values on knowledge, skills, and values, because we know our students will have to work across boundaries, be culturally sensitive, be team players, and adaptable to new change. We have to help them to become self-motivated and well-disciplined individuals equipped with skills and knowledge to do well in society and in life. The aim of this webinar is to give you first an overview of the work we did with our students, second year, EWIM, SCC, and Miola Master. During 6 weeks, this initiative is in line with our objective to promote and facilitate learning at INSEAD. This year, as you know, is a special year with the coronavirus, the lockdown, and with the online learning. Our students whom I congratulate were able to achieve their target and realize these projects. So congratulations to our students. The project's content consists on studying and analyzing the 4 human dimensions because we are a unity of 4 dimensions. Each dimension affects all the others. This means that the lack of wellness in one dimension creates an imbalance in the entire system. The way you see the problem is the problem. During this 6 weeks, the students had the opportunity to do self-introspection, self-reflection, which are mechanisms to scrutinize their internal feeling by going inwards, which help them to rebuild their lost relation with themselves. It helps them to seek a solution to their problem, which largely is their making. So by stopping and assessing, by zoom out the problems and the put scanner to reach the root cause, once they have found out the root, they ensure they orient their action in a manner which can give a solution to help them to move forward in their life journeys. The second aim of this webinar is to tackle the issue of from an out self to an ideal self. How do we think about our identity and our personal vision? The out self is the part of the ideal self that other people are giving us. So this is a quotation that says that we grow in the iron cage of the others' expectations. And the out self may come from our surrounding, family, parent, teacher, etc. But our ideal self is how we see ourselves. Who am I? We answer the question, who am I? What is my vision? Am I satisfied with what I'm doing? This question, most of the students may ask and answer to achieve success, chase their dream, and live a life that is filled with passion and purpose. But we need agility and resilience to go through the process of change and to get out of our zone of comfort. But some of us are self-destructive without realizing this. So the control of our emotional, physical, mental, and spiritual dimension can boost our energy and free us from stress and motivate us. So let's give you some title of the previous seminar. Last year we had the burnout, recognize, prevent, and control, which has greatly helped students to acquire great potential in dealing with the burnout. The GPS of success, which was a kind of orientation to successful personal and professional life. And I thank Mr. Sqali, who was our guest speaker. All these achievements couldn't have been possible without the students' engagement and motivation. And I'm sure that this kind of projects serve different purposes, such as enriching students' learning experience, developing their personal potential, enhancing methodology and practice. This year, our subject is From an Out Self to an Ideal Self, presented by our honorable guests, Mrs. Labib Jihan and Mr. Mohamed Sqali, to whom we give warm welcome and thanks. And I'm confident that this new initiative and enhanced measure will benefit students during their academic year, their professional life. Finally, I'd like to close my speech by wishing success to this webinar. I hope that every one of you will have a fruitful and meaningful exchange during this day, and thank you for accepting the invitation. And I thank also Mrs. Beqali for accepting the invitation and to be among us this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Zakia, for your speech. And now I'm going to give the floor to Vice Dean and the certified. And she is also the coordinator of the Information Systems Security Department, Mrs. Helen Bukhari. So welcome, Mrs. Helen Bukhari.
Thank you very much. I will speak in French. Perhaps next year I will speak in English and who knows?
Thank you.
Perhaps other languages. So je tiens vraiment, donc salam alaikum, je tiens à vraiment remercier donc professeur Zakia Belahmar pour cette initiative. Et en fait, c'est la 7e peut-être initiative dans ce sens. Dans le cadre de son cours, donc l'idée était, c'est vrai, c'est un cours normalement autour de la langue anglaise. On connaît son importance aussi, surtout avec la globalisation. Donc on voit bien que l'anglais a sa place et heureusement, nos étudiants s'intéressent de plus en plus à cette langue. Et comme ça, on ne reste pas que des francophones. Bien sûr, la dernière fois, j'ai parlé en arabe parce qu'on est dans un pays arabe et on connaît la place de notre langue dans nos cœurs. Et donc, bon, j'étais heureuse de parler en langue arabe. Bon, là, c'est juste question pour être plus fluent, si vous voulez. Donc, j'ai choisi le français. Et surtout que donc là, cette année, vous voyez, il y a la distance. C'est vrai, c'est un facteur de stress supplémentaire. Donc pour nos étudiants, pour les professeurs. Il y a également, en fait, on est à l'aube d'une autre, on va dire, d'autres années avec une autre offre de formation, c'est-à-dire revisiter de notre école. Donc le chantier a été lancé, en fait les nouvelles ou les filières remaniées sont en cours maintenant d'évaluation au niveau de l'université, bientôt au niveau de l'ANIAC. Et je suis heureuse d'annoncer que dans cette nouvelle offre de formation, une grande place a été accordée aux aspects de développement personnel. Donc notamment avec l'aide du département de langue et communication. Au niveau de la première année, il y aura donc les modules de langue et communication sont maintenant appelés langue, communication et développement personnel. Et donc, comme ça, on va dire que ces initiatives-là seront un peu renforcées dès la première année pour justement aider les élèves, d'accord, à construire et être accompagnés dans cette construction de leurs projets personnels et professionnels. Et la thématique d'aujourd'hui, donc vous l'avez entendu, Madame Belahmar a rappelé quelques thématiques, d'accord, déjà traitées dans le cadre on va dire, de cette initiative annuelle. Et moi, personnellement, l'année dernière, j'étais agréablement surprise par le travail fait par nos étudiants, d'accord, c'était vraiment, il y avait des témoignages émouvants. D'accord, je ne sais pas si les élèves de 3e année sont connectés parce qu'ils se reconnaîtront. Donc voilà, c'était vraiment... Donc ce travail sur soi est très important parce que les élèves arrivent ici, ils ont une charge de travail assez importante et c'est facile de perdre un peu l'orientation, d'accord, de perdre sa boussole, et de subir du stress ou du burn-out ou autres difficultés. Cette année, c'est encore plus difficile avec la Covid, avec vraiment, on va dire, que ce soit chez eux, donc ils sont chez eux, mais en même temps, ils sont chez nous parce que nous avons nos cours à distance, nous avons les devoirs, et donc là, cet amalgame, nous le vivons, nous, les professeurs, parce qu'on a ce mélange et ce n'est pas évident, ça crée un facteur de stress émotionnel supplémentaire. Et ce travail sur soi qui est coaché, accompagné donc, par Madame Rack, permet aux élèves de surmonter certaines difficultés et j'espère qu'on va le découvrir ensemble à travers les témoignages de certains, à la fois lauréats qui vont raconter aussi un peu, on va dire, bon, success stories, ou en tout cas c'est vraiment le fait de surmonter des difficultés parfois à titre personnel. Quand je dis à titre personnel, ce n'est pas forcément des difficultés palpables, comme ça, visibles, mais parfois c'est des aspects cachés. Et le fait d'essayer de connaître et cette awareness, donc c'est important pour chacun de nous. Et donc je remercie encore une fois donc, Madame Belahmar et aussi nos invités, d'accord, pour vraiment leur soutien. Et je souhaite à tout le monde un bon webinaire et bonne continuation. Merci.
Thank you, Mrs. Hanan. It was a great speech. It is a pleasure having you here. So, and right now, formula students are going to share the improvements and the experience they have while improving a specific aspect of themselves. So the first student is going to be Yusuf Dance. Welcome, Yusuf. Can you explain?
Thank you, Aditi.
Welcome.
Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to thank all the present people in this webinar, and also the organization for giving me a chance to share my experience. Since I was a child, the human brain has always fascinated me. Understanding how one thinks, remembers, and acts are extremely complex for me. Mainly because even if science proves that the human brain is so powerful, I still lack in many aspects in using it perfectly. Especially as a student, I always had this one common problem that almost every student had, and that is forgetting my lessons. So, in the concept of seeking to be a video only, which is the main theme of this webinar, I chose to improve my mental aspects and more precisely, memorization. After falling for the trap of having a bad memory over and over again, I realized that the problem is not actually with me, but that actually memorizing is not entirely an innate skill, but rather an ongoing process one endures over time, and that is possible for anyone to train and develop the memorizing abilities. And for that, in my past 5 weeks, I adopted few memorizing techniques and strategies that ease the retention process of information over time. In those 5 weeks, I settled in dividing the process of memorizing into three. The encoding, in which is the first process in dividing, which is the first process that the human memory puts in operation. The storing, which implicates holding the information in my mind and retrieving those information in a later time. I try to focus in increasing individually the efficiency of each of these processes by actively thinking of what I'm doing in each of them. And to sum it all up, I realized that there is mainly 4 factors that influence my memory. First is the content factors. What is it I'm trying to understand? Is it something I like or not? How familiar I am with it? The volume and the structure of information I'm trying to absorb. Second, my environment, which implicates temperature, noise, time, etc. In third comes subjective factors, like my physical state, my mood. And finally, how I deal with those information for better understanding and storing so the retrieval becomes easier after. Playing with those factors, I found solutions as finding a good reason and motivation so that I can be passionate of what I'm about to memorize, simplifying stuff so there is no room for more simplification, and finding the most suitable available place and to meditate before studying to put myself in a good state of mind. And finally, analyzing patterns of what I'm trying to memorize so I can link it with something with a similar pattern for my memory. That's it for my experience in increasing my memorizing abilities, and I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you for sharing with us your experience. Memorization. So next, thank you. So next we have Hamza Sibila, is a student too, and welcome Hamza. Can you share with us your experience? You can start.
Okay. So can you say my first screen? Okay. So hello everyone, my name is Hamza Sibila. Soon I will start presenting my work during the past 5 weeks. So, poor physical health can lead to an increased risk of developing mental health problems. Similarly, poor mental health can lead to the impact on physical health, leading to an increased addressing risks of some conditions. In this presentation, I will identify problems related to my physical health. Then I will present each week steps I did to get over all my problems. I try to identify my problems related to my health. First problem. The second problem is insomnia. Third problem is bad food choice or bad food habit, bad eating habit. The fourth is lack of physical activities. So for the first 2 weeks, I tried to put myself in the track of fixing the first two problems related to sleeping by. Waking up early, maximum at 8, so I have the whole day to do my daily tasks instead of doing them at night. The second step is scheduling a nap in the mid-afternoon for 2 hours in order to boost my memory, improve my job performance, and ease stress. Third one, set an alarm to sleep at 10 a.m. to have enough sleep, and put distraction things like phone or computer so I can sleep early. And for the third week, I started working on my eating habits. Which is one of the most important things in the plan. So I try to improve my eating habits by first step is choosing healthy food by increased variety. The second one is eating on time. The third step is avoid eating fried food. The fourth one is staying hydrated. And for the fourth week and the fifth week is served to fix problem related to the lack of physical activities. So in the last 3 weeks, I should be already fixed the first 3 problems related to sleeping habits and food and eating habits in order to tackle the last one, which is the lack of physical activities. This lack of physical activities can lead to heart diseases, and even for people who have no other risk factor, it can also increase the likelihood of developing other heart disease risk factor, including obesity and high blood pressure and high blood cholesterol and type 2 diabetes. So in order to get all those benefits, I should exercise sport early in the morning before I get busy with my daily tasks. Committed to exercise sport with someone else, it's much harder to cancel when you feel you're letting someone down. Using bike instead of public transportation, stretching while doing my tasks. Following the schedule during 5 weeks helps me to improve my physical health and increase the rate of my daily physical activity, and it helps in ordering my life so I can have time for each component, such as sports, daily tasks, and my social life like meeting friends and family. So here's the results of the plan I did before. So the progress in the first 2 weeks was good, kind of good. And due to some problems with an infixed study schedule, I didn't manage to sleep on time every day. In consequence, I can't wake up early as I already planned. This is highly affects on my other plans. And for the third week, I succeeded in achieving all what I planned. Changing my eating habits was a bit difficult and quite enjoyable at the same time. And for the last 2 weeks, getting over the problem of lack of physical activity was kind of hard as a result of avoiding sport for years. thanks everyone if you pay attention. Have a good day.
Thank you, Professor. And also we have Sukaina Fathallah. Welcome, Sukaina. Can you please share with us your experience?
Hi everyone, I am Sukaina Fathallah and I'm glad to share with you my experience about self-confidence improvements. I have chosen to work on these aspects because I was facing some problems that I tried to solve in the previous 5 weeks. First problem is overthinking. I was always thinking of the bad things that happened to me, such as my previous bad experiences, the number of times I failed, and all of that could influence my future plans in a bad way. Second problem is the negative vision of myself. I did usually focus on my faults, weakness. Thus, I kept exaggerating my failure and imperfection. Third problem is self-doubt. I was feeling incapable of doing things I need to do, especially when I'm already knowing that there are so many persons failed at doing it. In consequence, I became scared of doing things to avoid failure. Fourth problem is pessimism. I did often think of the dark side and see the half-empty part of the glass. Not only this, but I was also keeping expecting negative outcomes. That's why I was suspicious when things seemed to be going well. Week's plans. I have set some tips to follow for building my self-confidence. Like for each week, I worked on one of them, and this helped me to reach my aim of being more self-confident. In the first week, I looked at my previous achievements. Like for each day, I made a list of all the things I'm proud of in my life. Then I kept the list close by and added to it whenever I did something I'm proud of. When I'm low in confidence, I pull out the list and use it to remind myself of all the awesome stuff I have done. So here are some main achievements that I had. First one is my participation in Girls Code competition. 9 months ago, I have participated in Girls Code competition for the first time, and it ended with solving 5 problems among 10. In consequence, I became more ambitious to participate in the next edition. Second achievement is occupying the second place among the best submissions of a problem in a Solving Problems Codes platform. It was my first experience to solve a problem in a platform. Therefore, I was hesitated, but I told myself that I should do it. So at the end, I get surprised when I found that my solution got a good ranking with optimal execution time. In the second week, I thought of all the things I'm good at and tried to build on those things. As a result, I found that I'm good at helping others, taking care of kids, cooking, drawing, playing basketball, leading a working team, making new friends, taking the right decisions, etc. In the third week, I have set some goals and the steps I need to take to achieve them, even small things. Thus, I aimed for some small achievements, such as meeting some old friends, completing some online courses, discovering new technologies, creating new stuff, managing my time, enrolling in a gym, etc. In the fourth week, I was talking myself up. For instance, I was thinking about my self-talk and how that might be affecting my self-confidence. Your success will be determined by your own confidence and fortitude. The most beautiful thing you can wear is confidence. When you have confidence, you can do anything. Those are some quotes that I was telling myself to change the way I see myself. And it was a great way to remind myself that I'm worthy, smart, amazing, and deserving of every good thing in life. In the fifth week, I planned for getting some hobbies. In this last step, I tried to find something that I'm really passionate about. Then I have committed myself to give it a go, such as developing my skills in drawing, playing piano and guitar, reading books, writing a poetry, etc. As a conclusion, I would like to say that thanks to the tips I followed, I became satisfied and more confident, and all of that drives me to continue my work on developing my self-confidence more and more. That's all, so thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Sabrina. So finally, we have Sumaya Al-Harash. Welcome, Sumaya.
Thank you very much, Adi.
No.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sumaya Al-Harsh, and today I will present my personal development project in which I try to improve my eating habits. I'll start with a brief summary of this presentation. First, I'll introduce the dimension I chose. Second, I'll talk about the problem, then move on to the plan to tackle said problem. Then I'll talk about my experience in following this plan, and finally, a conclusion of my work. Choosing the dimension wasn't hard at all, as it was clear from the wheel of life we had to fill with the teacher that I was severely lacking in the physical dimension. It's no secret to me or my family how bad my physical habits are. My sleeping pattern could hardly be called a pattern anymore, not to mention that I tend to skip meals and eat far too little. The cause of my eating habits is a bad combination of being a picky eater and a forgetful. That means that not only do I not have enough meals per day, but I also barely eat anything of substance in the meals that I do have. And once I'm absorbed in doing something, I completely forget everything else until I find out that I didn't eat today or that I haven't had a drop of water. And so I took this project as an opportunity to finally do something about this situation and set myself a few goals to achieve. The first goal was to eat a minimum of 3 meals a day, no matter what, with each meal being fulfilling. The second goal was to gradually increase my water intake to the recommended 8%. My plan was as follows. I took myself on the first week to create a meal plan with my family and buy what I needed to make it work. For example, buying a water bottle and food that's easy to prepare. The second and third weeks were the trial and error period. During these weeks, I took time to fail and learn what worked and what didn't, and how to improve my situation. I also tried to gradually increase my water intake to 4 cups. Then the last weeks were spent on solidifying my habits and implementing the solutions I came up with, all while increasing my daily water intake to 8 cups. As I went on with my plan using the help of my family, I learned a few tips from my mistakes. To cite one example, when I was struggling with staying hydrated, I figured out that if I put a full water bottle next to me before I start using my computer or start to work, my body will casually keep reaching for it, and I would drink it all in about 30 minutes, meeting my goal for the day. Naturally, not all of my goals have been fully met. I still skip a meal every now and then, and I don't always reach my hydration goals. However, I've made incredible progress compared to how I was before starting this project, and my journey in self-improvement has only just begun. Thank you all for your time and attention, and thank you, Professor, for this opportunity. Have a great day.
Thank you, Sumaya, for your presentation. Now, let me introduce our first speaker. He's an entrepreneur. He's the founder and managing director of 2 companies, and he's a certified professional coach and a certified facilitator of Adding Zeros, which is a program to help executive teams achieve exponential growth for their companies. So please welcome Mr. Sqali Husseini Mohammed. The floor is yours, Mr. Sqali.
Assalamu alaikum. I'd like to thank you all for this invitation. It's really my pleasure to be with you today. And it's also my pleasure that to be here to listen to many of the students taught me something already. Students have learned already to be vulnerable, to accept their vulnerabilities, and this is by itself, I think it's a major achievement. Thanks to Professor Al-Ahmar, you've done a great job, and thanks to all the students for their hard work. So today I'd like to share with you just a few ideas, but I'll start from the beginning. Professor Al-Ahmar called me about, I think, 2 weeks ago, and she told me there is this webinar, and it's about adaptability, and I told her that I just got out of a meeting with the executive team talking about adaptability, agility, and flexibility and change. As I said, the call comes on time, so everything comes well scheduled. So, but then when I saw the title, I saw that from an old self to an ideal self, and to tell you the truth, the first time I hear old self. I know ideal self for the first time, so I went to search to learn a little bit about this. And so today I'd like to talk more about resilience, about agility, about change, and that's the main topic because, again, that's some of the ideas that I'd like to talk about today. And later, of course, if you have some questions or discussion, that they will be welcome. So emotional intelligence for an ideal self. So are we aware of what we need to work on? I'd like to share this picture with somebody who is taking an interview, and most of you in a few years you're going to also go for interviews, and the person, the HR manager, is asking this person, do you have soft skills? Have you worked on your soft skills? And he said, of course, I have good people skills. What kind of idiot question is that? So I like this because it shows two things. It shows that the person does not have soft skills, that he needs to work on himself. But besides that, he's not aware, which is the worst thing. When we're not aware that we need to do the work on ourselves. So I think we all need to do the work on ourselves. We all need to improve. That's part of life. But the worst when we're not aware of that, or when we think we've really already reached the top and there's nothing that we can improve. So awareness is really the first, is the key. So let me share with you what I found out about ideal self and old self. The ideal self guides us to pay attention to cues or clues for achievement and successful goal pursuit. So basically it's promotion. It's focused more on promotion, on moving forward, on looking at the vision, as Professor Al-Ahmar said it already. On the other side, when we talk about old self, it's prevention focus, so it's just avoiding harm. It's avoiding that undesired self that we're afraid of. It allows us to achieve certain things for sure, but it has some limitations. Now there is a contrast in how these approach and avoidance motivations relate to our emotions, and that's really the key of my discussion today, is how all of this stuff actually, how all of these things, and it's very interesting what I saw in the presentations of students. It's clear that emotions are really the driver of many of the things that happen to us every day. So when we achieve goals related to our ideal self, our promotion focus, our vision, what we're hoping to achieve, what we love to do, what we want, we feel pleasure. When we achieve goals related to our old self, we feel relief. Done, it's done. Thanks to God, it's done. Thanks to God, it's Friday. Thanks to God, I'm done with that. But on the other side, what provides us with joy, with peace of mind, with pleasure, is more working on the ideal self. Is it easy? No. But that's the path to achieve real happiness in life. And actually what's interesting is that there is actually a relationship between procrastination and old self. And by the way, what we're going to talk about in emotional intelligence, there is latest studies show that procrastination is related to management of our emotions, or the not very good way of managing our emotions. I think you know this movie. If you don't, I really recommend it. It's Inside Out, or vice versa en français. Inside Out is really great because it talks about 5 emotions and it shows what happened inside our brain. So at least it allows us to understand a few things. But on the more serious parts, this is actually the competencies, the domains and the competencies developed by Daniel Goleman on emotional intelligence. So there are 4 domains and about 12 competencies. Of course, we're not going to look into all of this stuff. But as you can see, it's very interesting what we're talking about today. It's related to the one in yellow. We have emotional balance, which is basically resilience. We have adaptability, which is also change and agility. We have achievement orientation, as we will see later, which is related to getting into action and achieving things, and that's really the ideal self. And the positive outlook, and we've seen some presentations also on that aspect. So these are the 4 I'd like to share with you in a very succinct way. We're not going to take too much time of you because I'd like to discuss more things later. But before we get into that, what's interesting is the biggest part of developing our emotional intelligence is really on the self-awareness. And most experts working on this area state clearly that the work we need to do on self-awareness is the most important one, because otherwise we're not going to be able to develop other competencies anyway. And it's interesting that even when we go to other competencies, including relationship management, like for example conflict management, we always come back to, do I know myself better? Do I know myself well so I can really manage these conflicts? If not, then it's going to be very difficult to manage conflicts. So I start with that, so self-awareness aspect. What's happening actually inside our brain? Quickly, we have many parts in our brain, of course, but I will share with you 2 parts which are of interest today. One is the prefrontal cortex, which is in the front of our brain. That's the executive center, what we call the executive center. So anything with respect to making decisions, like understanding things, memorizing, as the presentation earlier, collecting information, learning, etc., it's done in the prefrontal cortex. Now on the other side, we have also the amygdala, which is in the middle of the brain, and that's responsible for the emotional aspect. And so that's where things are triggered when we face emergencies. Or it should be triggered only when we face emergencies. At least for animals, that's what happened. For humans, unfortunately, sometimes we trigger it and we bring emergency while there is no emergency. Sometimes we think about something that we bring that an emergency while it's not really a time of crisis. So what really happens? Just take an example, maybe you already know, with emergency, when we are in the emergency mode. You know the example of the, sometimes the, what we call the deer and the lion. If the deer sees the lion, then tries to really avoid. I mean, there's an emergency situation. And so what happens is the amygdala is the one who takes control, and then this deer or this animal, whatever animal, will run away from the lion. Now, in difficult situations, of course, we will need, or we will be in this amygdala, which is normal, as it happens to animals. What's interesting is, at that time, the body becomes so strong, and the muscles really work at their optimum, at the maximum, but the prefrontal cortex is closed, it's shut down. And that's really the biggest issue. At that time, when we are in amygdala, we are not thinking in a logical way. And the easy example is when sometimes we have a student in the primary school, and the teacher asks, what's 1 + 1? And cannot answer. For sure, he knows or she knows the answer. The problem is in here, is that when the person is stressed, has a lot of fear, then the cortex, or the prefrontal cortex, is really shut down, and the person cannot answer. And unfortunately, that's what happens in many times. It's not that we don't have the answers, we don't have solutions, we cannot solve problems, but when we are really in this situation, we cannot really make good judgment, we cannot make good decisions. And so what happened? We focus on the emergency, and we, in general, take very bad decisions. And that's why we find sometimes very awkward reactions, very intense reactions like anger and etc. that happen And people at the end, they may even regret that. They say, why I did that? I shouldn't have done that. What's interesting is, as I said earlier, for the animal, for the deer, for example, it's easy to go back. Once the lion did not catch the deer, or does not catch the deer is able to go and start eating. It's okay. But for the human being, we continue thinking about the situation. I go through a situation, somebody told me something, it made me angry, but the whole day I continued thinking about this. I spent maybe a week thinking about what he said. And so what happened? I stay in the amygdala. So I stay really in this area which blocks me and doesn't allow me to fulfill and to go forward in my life. So that's in a nutshell. Now, can we change all of these things? Yes. Now, when the logic part is predominant, when the prefrontal cortex is predominant, we call it top-down. As you can see, the cortex is on the top, the amygdala is below, so we call it top-down. When we are at the bottom up, it's the emotional part which is priming, which is really predominant. So quickly, let's talk about emotional balance. Now, the first or one of the competencies in self-management is what we call emotional balance, which is also what we call resilience, or what we call sometimes also self-regulation. So the idea here is how long it takes me once I am driven into a situation, I am triggered into a situation, and I am in anger, for example, how long it takes me before I go back to calm, to normal, to where I was before. So the idea is the more I develop emotional balance, more I develop resilience, I can quickly go back to basically this balance. I can easily go back to this calmness. Now, emotional balance is very important. Some people say, well, I can really, it doesn't show. I am angry, but I can really just not show it. But that's not really emotional balance. That's not resilience. Resilience is when you work on the core, you work on the inside, you work on the real self, not just on the appearances. And so emotional balance does not mean being devoid of emotion or suppressing the emotion, but rather recognizing your emotion. Emotions are, by the way, they're not good or bad. We say, well, some emotions are good, some no. Fear is not bad. It's just an emotion. Joy is not good. It's just an emotion. But what happens after the emotion is what you can work on. Is when you have fear, that means there is an indication, there's a signal that tells you something is going wrong. So what are you going to do? Okay, so something is happening anyway. I'm not going to even say it's wrong. Right? When you see something that makes you feel this fear, it's just an indication that you need to take something. It's like the same thing as when we fall and we have this pain. The pain is just an indicator that I need to go to the doctor. It's the same thing here. It's just an indicator, the emotion indicator. I need to do something about it. So first I need to recognize that, and I need to adjust how I react in this situation. And that's why when we talk about emotional reaction, it's not really about the situation. Some people say, well, this person made me angry. It's not true. This person did something, okay? But then based on your interpretation, you became angry. So it's very important to differentiate between these two things. And this by itself will help us gain more resilience. So if I want to develop my resilience, the first thing is separate myself from what other people are doing. The idea, look at how did you interpret, because what makes you react that way in anger, for example, is just the way you interpret the situation. That's why we find in the same situation, two people are reacting in two different ways. What's the difference? It's not the situation, it's exactly the same. But it's their perception of the situation, their interpretation, their thinking about the situation. And so if we need to work on something, we need to work on our interpretation. Now, of course, the question will come is, how can I do that? How can I develop my resilience? Very simple. What Daniel Goleman said is very easy. I mean, if you remember this, that's bicep will be, I think, easy for today. Your thoughts are invisible events. Your thoughts are invisible events. What you think, it's just a thinking. It's just a thought. But that thought, when it happens, it's like if you're living exactly the same situation, even though it's not really real. And that you may already know, like for example, people who do sports, who go to Olympic game, before they go there, they visualize their success. Why they visualize their success? Because when they visualize their success, as if they're living the success. So it creates basically an experience in your brain, and the brain does not make the difference between a real experience and a virtual experience. And so what you can do to develop your resilience, just use this. Just instead of going during the day, focusing on the bad things that happen, focus on the good things. Instead of focusing how you're going to react in anger, focus on how you're going to react in a more calm way. So whatever you program in your brain is going to develop your way of reacting, is going to develop your interpretation, is going to develop your reaction. And so you need to practice the new response, what we call neuroplasticity. So our brain just feeds whatever we give it. So if I give my brain things like, in this situation I need to be angry, this person really is not a good person, I need to react in this way. So the more I feed this in my brain, the more I'm going to react in this way. It's very simple. I want to change my reaction, I need to feed my brain with different information. And so I need to tell my brain, this is how I'm going to react next time. I'm going to react in more, as I said, in a more calm way, in a way that's going to be very satisfying for me, etc. So, and the first thing to do is we need to be able to visualize it, because if I'm not able to see it in my brain, I'm not going to be able to execute it in real life. Of course, in addition, we need also to practice the new way. Practicing the new way and working on it will allow me also to create this automatic habit that will allow me to develop this resilience. Like this person who comes and say, how do you speak languages so well? So he talks to somebody who speaks too many languages and say, how do you speak this language so well? The other person says, practice. And then the other persists. It must be an innate gift, a gift from God. And the other said, it's practice. I never understand how some people are so talented in mystery. And he goes away. The other one said, practice. So I love also the presentations that were before this talk, which shows, and it was even said by one of the presenters, practice actually makes magic. When you practice, memory, he talks about memory, and he said you can practice and you get wherever you want. And exactly the same thing. So when we're talking about resilience, about agility, about change, about going to the ideal set, it's all about practice. It's simple. It's given to everyone. But some people decide to do it. Some people decide to find excuses like the one we see here on the picture. Oh, maybe some people are gifted. I am not. Okay, that's fine. The first thing we need to do is take responsibility. Another aspect of resilience is what we call cognitive control. And that's actually the gap or the time between the stimulus, when something happens, the trigger happens, and your response. Of course, it's very easy to see. The longer you wait, the better you become. So the cognitive control is really just the time it takes you before you react, before you take the action, or you take a response. So widening this gap actually between the impulse and the action is a sign, of course, of maturity. Some strategies to develop this, to develop the cognitive control, naming our emotion, as simple as that. When you are triggered in a situation and you feel anger, before you do anything, just name your emotion, because when you name your emotion, what happens? You really call the prefrontal cortex, because that's the one responsible for naming anything. So you call your logic, you say to your logic, come, I need you. So you're just calling your logic to say, okay. So when you're naming your emotion, you're helping yourself to go back to the top down instead of being or staying in the bottom up. So naming emotion is very important. Also, it gives you time. If you name your emotion, that gives you a little bit time. And the more time you gain from the impulse, from the time of the situation or the trigger, the more your reaction most likely is going to be much better. Perspective taking. Also look at things from different point of view, from how other people could see it, and even yourself when you interpret, what other interpretations you can give to the situation. You see somebody coming late, you can say, well, this guy is always late, he doesn't respect me, okay? Or you can say, maybe he has an excuse. You change the interpretation, it changed everything, and so the reaction, the emotional reaction, of course, is going to be different. Mindfulness meditation is very important. Respiration, breathing, and body scan, and different type, like walking while you're really concentrating on your work, being present in the moment, developing this mindfulness. And there are many, actually, if you look into the internet, there are many tools that can help you develop the mindfulness. And being present in the moment, that's very important to develop this competence. The second competency in self-management is adaptability. And so that's what we call agility, what we call flexibility. And the idea is how we manage change and to be happy with the change and to accept change. What's interesting, when we are adaptable, we stay focused on our goal. Why? Because we adjust our way. Yes, we focus on our goal. We're not changing the goal. That's not adaptability. Adaptability is not changing my goal, but rather being able to be focused on my goal, but changing the way to achieve it. Meaning, if I go one way and I cannot reach it, I don't say, well, I cannot get it. No. Is there any other way? Doesn't work. Is there any other way? Like Edison, for example, would say he did it 10,000 times, and when Ford asked him, did you feel that you were failing? He said, no, every time for me it's a new way, it's a new discovery. So that's adaptability. We adapt to the change and to the difficult situations. We are aware and comfortable with uncertainty. It's okay, uncertainty is great, it's good. Problems are good, conflicts are excellent. Research shows that adaptability is the best predictor, really is in the heart of EI. So if we reach this, it's maybe in the summum or the top of the EI. Once the person becomes adaptable, flexible, agile, then this person really has no limits in what they can achieve. I have a video I can share with you. Let's try if it works. No sound.
Leader can juggle things, can maintain their energy, can adaptability is another very crucial competency in self-management, because it means that a leader can juggle things, can maintain their energy, can be nimble, can shift as demands shift to handle change.
I think one of the things about that is the ability to see change as positive. That people do not naturally resist change. They resist the fear of change or the pain of the unknown. So that it has to start with the mindset, change is good, problems are good, conflicts are good, so that you're already in that frame of reference that you can be adaptable. And you see very rigid people, very controlling people that cannot handle those changes and unexpected things, so that you train yourself to see those things as positive. And then watch how other people have responded to those in a positive way. How's the best boss going to respond? Asking you that question.
And this builds on the ability to stay calm in crisis in the first place, so that you can think through.
And I think the other thing, Dan, is the fundamental idea that loss is the most powerful motivator in 80% of behavioral economics. Loss or anticipated loss. So that the real goal is to understand that you're losing something and be aware of that, but that you're getting a benefit, you're getting more. So the top performers are not afraid of loss. They're not afraid of what's going to change in status, roles, etc., but they can respond to that. And that underlying loss is the deepest motivator that there is in human beings, far more than benefit, except when you become a high performer. Then loss is not, you're not afraid of it, but you become really focused on what's the benefit. I'm willing to go through the pain for the benefit.
You can see it, right? It's okay. Okay, so we need to become more agile and more adaptable. And to do that, we need to experiment with behaviors, activities that at first seem awkward and comfortable. Basically, we need to get out of our comfort zone. We need sometimes to look for difficult things. We need to look for things which will make us get out of this comfort zone. Change is difficult, and it's better to recognize that, actually. As JFK said, we're going to go to the moon not because it's easy, we're going to do it not because it's easy, but because it's hard. And so what we're going to do, or what we need to do to change, sometimes it's not going to be easy, it's going to be hard, but still we're going to do it. What's interesting is that research finds that adaptability is in the heart of innovation and creativity. So when people become adaptable, they become very creative because they don't have this fear of the unknown, because they can really dare new areas, new things, new ideas. Nothing can stop them. Another competency is the positive outlook. What's interesting, 80% of people focus on what's wrong, what's not going well, on what fails. Now, positive outlook is the ability to see the best in people. It doesn't mean that we don't see the negative, or we don't, but we don't allow the negative really to hide the positive. So we focus more on the positive side. It allows us also to persist and to persevere in achieving our goals. What's more interesting, actually, and this is very, very important, because unfortunately that's what we find in as I said, in 80% of the people, playing negative thoughts repeatedly in our head does more than make us miserable in the moment. Research shows that these thoughts reshape our brains. They reshape our brains, they model our brain to make it easier to have negative thoughts in the future. And that's why we find people who become really very negative, that they cannot see, and they can only see the negative. But at the end, it's really a choice that we made at the beginning to feed our brain with these things, and so at the end we get these results. Positivity also leads to better performance. Research of University of Pennsylvania shows that. Other benefits: better health, more fun, creativity, overcoming setbacks. It's also contagious. When we become positive, really, we create an environment, a culture which is more positive. By the way, you have a really nice article in Harvard Business Review about this, manager emotional culture. Another competency which is very interesting is achievement orientation. All of these things is good. It's good to work on agility, to work on change, to work on resilience. But if there is no action, unfortunately, you're not really working on your emotions. So we need really to get into the orientation of achieving things. Develop the understanding that we can continue to improve all the time to reach our full potential. Not comparing ourselves to others, but rather to our own potential and what we can reach. We need to develop this tendency that we're always looking to improve. And for that, we need also to have intellectual humility. It's to say, well, I can learn from anyone. I can learn from my children. I can learn from anyone who works with me. I can learn from anybody. So I don't, and to do this, we need to have this humility, and to say that when I talk to somebody, I listen carefully, because there is something I can learn anyway, with no judgment. Because when we're judging people, unfortunately, we're not listening to them, and so we don't develop also this competence. Now, what happened with this? Research shows that when we work towards a goal, this nucleus that you see in the picture here, nucleus accumbens, is activated. And this is the one responsible for rich in dopamine. And you know dopamine, what it does, so it really gives us this pleasure, we feel good. And so the idea to improve this aspect, achievement orientation competency, what we need to do, we need to spend more time in identifying long-term, short-term goals. And again, I go back to the presentations of the students earlier, which is great. I mean, you have weeks and you have goals and you identify your long-term, your short-term goals, but you have also a plan of action. And so you get into action to achieve these goals. There's another video that I'm going to show you just for time. Talking about the sweet spot for achievement, so I'm going to share with you the idea. The sweet spot of achievements, the idea is that we have two axes, like the x-axis, where we have, let's call it the brain arousal, like are you really very engaged or not engaged? And on the other side you have performance. So what we found, or what was found, is that You know, I have one picture I can share with you that will be much easier. It's not very well done, but so this shows actually the sweet spot. This is the sweet spot of performance. When we are not really, and we don't have this brain arousal, we are disengaged. We're not interested. We are in the apathy, lethargy. We don't want to work. We don't want to get out of bed. But when you are also in the overstress, you're in panic mode, you don't perform well. And unfortunately, we are sometimes here or here. So the idea is that how can I be in the middle, in this part where what we call actually the sweet spot of achievement? And so when we talk about achievement orientation, the idea is to get into that sweet spot. And so to get into that sweet spot, we need two things. One, we need to get motivated to get out of the lower area. We need to get motivated about something. I want to do something. Otherwise, if I'm not motivated, I am disengaged, I don't want to do anything. And then we need also not to get really overstressed. The idea is that how I can stay in an area where I can master my emotions, using what we just talked about, self-management, in a way that I don't get into this over-stress. Thank you for your time. And of course, if there is some type of question now or later, I'd be happy to take it.
Thank you, Mr. Khalid, for the informative and interesting presentation. And it is a really rich presentation. And also, it is a pleasure having you here with us today. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Earlier, I saw Professor Zillo Ahmed wanted to ask something. Are you here? You want to ask something or add something? We don't see anyone, so we're going to proceed. So right now we have EWIM students who are going to share their the improvement and the experience they had while improving a specific aspect of themselves. So the first is going to be Yusra Sharif. Welcome, Yusra. Can you share with us your presentation?
Yes, thank you, Ali.
Welcome.
So first, yes, okay, thank you. So first, I am going to introduce myself. I am Yusra Sharif, second year EWIM student. I want to thank teacher Belhamar for giving us this opportunity to share our works with our teacher and students from Biola, SSE, and EWIM, of course. So I am going to share my screen. Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Yes. The share screen? So now I'm going to present a self-esteem presentation. Before I want to introduce our plan, so I want to talk first about what is self-esteem and how did I improve my self-esteem during these weeks, and finally, how did it impact my life. So first, what is self-esteem? I want to introduce it with a quote. It's Lucille Ball quote. Love yourself first and everything else falls into line. You really have to love yourself to get anything done in the world. So loving ourselves isn't about being selfish or ego-focused. When we truly love ourselves, our nurture, so those aspects are the best part of our gifts and abilities. Now I'm going to move to the next part, which is my process over the last weeks. I want to share with you my experience because as my friends know, I am a shy person. So when we have a meeting, I just attend the meeting and I turn off my mic and I just listen to the speaker or to teachers, and I feel so shy to participate and give my opinion. So over the time, when I worked on the self-esteem and self-confidence, I start turning on my microphones and asking teachers and friends and giving my ideas also and my opinions. And now I am, alhamdulillah, leading the meetings because I'm responsible of many clubs at NCS, especially TEDx Club and IT Club. So I am leading them because I am responsible of media. So I have some members which I give them my opinion, and I ask them, for example, to give me their opinion and stuff. So that's alhamdulillah, one of the best things I have achieved during this group. Self-esteem. I want to first talk about the book, The Self-Esteem Estrella Bernard book. Building a healthy self-esteem is, if we want equality, healthy and life, we
Sorry, Yusra, you have a bad quality of voice. We can't hear you. Yusra.
Yusra? Can you hear us?
Yes, please, Ali. If she has a problem, maybe we move to the next students and we'll come back to her later. If she can't solve the problem. Thank you.
There is no problem. Yusra, we can just proceed to other student. Now we're going to welcome Kautar Shubari. Welcome, Kautar. Can you present with us your presentation? Please, Yusra, and your presentation. Thank you.
Do you hear me well?
Yes, we can hear you well. Just raise your voice a little bit and we can hear you.
So, do you see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. So, hello everyone. I hope you're all doing well and great. Today I want to share with you my journey during these weeks on self-development. So I choose to work on my sleep as it is an important physical aspect for me that I really want to work on for a long time, but I couldn't make it. And I believe that building the right habits on this aspect will help me a lot on my next plans. So during my presentation, I will start with the original of my problem, when it started and why. Then I will present my ultimate goal that I want to achieve. And on the third part, I will present the actions that I took in order to achieve my goals. And lastly, I will do a little conclusion at the end. So, first of all, let's begin with the original of my problem. It all started in 2013 when our family supplied our home with the internet. I was curious and passionate to try this technology as soon as possible, as my schoolmates have already had in their houses before me, and to discover all other sides of the internet that I don't know and my friends were telling me about. So this important event in my life was aligned in the timeline with Ramadan. We all know from our personal experience that it's quite hard to have a steady sleep during this holy month. So my sister and I developed a very bad schedule of sleep during this whole month. We didn't sleep until we had suhoor meal, and sometimes we were exceeding that time and we slept away after 6 a.m. So during this excessive time, we were spending it on watching movies, documentaries, and also exploring and learning new skills. It was there when I discovered my graphic design passion and started sharpening that skill. So I'm not regretting on the time I spent on it, neither the bad schedule I had that time. So even I was a teenager at that time, I was fully aware that even I learned many things during this unsteady schedule sleep, but this bad habit affected many aspects of my life, including having difficulties on my studies and getting lower grades in the average, having also an impaired mood, and also feeling sleepy all the daytime. So I feel also many forms of pain in my body, including in my neck, my arms, my leg, and my back, because I was sitting in front of the computer and all the screens for long, continuous hours. So actually, do you still...
Yes, Kautar, we still see your
presentation. Okay. So,
right now, before we do.
Yes, please, Kautar, we can't see your presentation.
Okay.
Now we can see it.
Okay, so as I said, I started feeling many forms of pain on my neck, on my legs, on my arms, and my back because of the continuous hours I spent in front of screens. So actually, these effects weren't only on my teenage, but also these years on my adulthood. So in order to fix this messy life, I started writing down the perfect schedule sleep I wanted to apply in my life, so I can start working on with the supervision of our dear teacher, Mrs. Zakia. So my goals, in order to achieve my goals, I have to stay healthy physically and mentally, also to increase my efficiency during daytime. And I want also to optimize my time on social media platforms, so I can get enough rest and sleep and disconnect from the connected world, and to get a healthier heart and brain. Also, as I mentioned, I want to decrease my social media time, especially before bedtime, as it's affected badly my sleep. And also I want to do more sport activities to improve my concentration and increase my productivity. So, starting with the actions I take, I took multiple actions during these several weeks in order to build that sustainable habits that I will stick on in my whole life, starting by setting an alarm. So I will show you in this short video how do I made it. So I have a Samsung mobile phone, and I just activate this bedtime alarm. So first I set the time I want to wake up, and next the time I want to sleep on. I activate the alarm during the whole week, and also activate this bedtime mode, which will have a very good impact on my screen. Which we will see right now. So this bedtime mode here before getting into 12 a.m. So I get a notification on my screen that I get a notification on my screen that I have to go to sleep. It's time for bed. And then, after getting into the sleep time, so my screen went all to black and white. So the surfing in the social media becomes so boring. We couldn't see all the colors of the images and pictures. And also, it's become so boring, so I wouldn't continue surfing on my social media account. So all I do is putting my phone in the desk and getting into sleep. After that, so after the alarm was fired at 6:30, so I wake up on my bed and go to the desk to close the alarm. And then all the colors turned back in my phone, so I can literally surf well. After that, I go to pray Salat al-Fajr with my family, and sitting in front of a window where the sunlight enter, and starting surfing and reading news, making some and working on some projects before reaching 9 a.m. when our courses started. So I did some stretch exercise and also get out of my computer, prepare my breakfast to get ready for the courses.
Sorry, Kabjar, for interrupting. Just hurry up a little bit because we have a time limitation. Thank you.
Okay, so I still have the conclusion if you want me to continue.
Yes, just quickly.
Okay. So to conclude, this activity helped me a lot to stick on this habit for more than 3 weeks and challenging myself to keep on the track. I also learned that these small steps get me out of my comfort zone, and they are the keys to achieve bigger goals I want to make. I would like to thank our dear professor, Mrs. Zakia Belahmar, for giving us this opportunity and encouraging us to develop ourselves, working on our weakest points and pushing up our limits in order to becoming better versions of ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Kabjar, for your interesting presentation. We saw a lot of things that you did to improve yourself, so thank you. Now let me introduce our second speaker, She is a senior practitioner by the EMCC with a strong background in providing leadership coaching and training individuals and corporate organizations to position their companies at the forefront of their industries. Our objectives are to empower new generation of executives and committees and let them grow within challenging organizations in changing the world and to stimulate performance within business transformations and to build a real leadership well-being style working environment. Please welcome Ms. Jihan Labib. The floor is yours, Mrs. Jihan.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Zakia. And really congratulations for all this huge work that you have been done with your students. And I'm really delighted to be here with you and to meet my friends, Mr. Rasqali and Mrs. Zakia, and to meet with this very brilliant engineering. Well, I think resilience, the topic of today is I think it will be more and more necessary to talk about resilience, agility, and change because we, all of us, live in it. Since the COVID lesson, I call this pandemic is a great lesson of our modern life. And resilience, it's kind of daily exercises for me as a human being and also as a practitioner. And last year, we had to work a lot with organizations and managers to walk through this pandemic and these big changes. And when Mrs. Zakia asked me about the topic, I had some document just for sharing and just to have like kind of slides just to show you, but I prefer to share also practice and experience coming from our learning year. As a coach, before I think that you don't know me, you already had to meet and met Mr. Rasqali. Before being coach, I used to be marketing director and marketing communication director, and I worked for multinationals and companies. And the SWIFT or the SWIFT mindset came to me when I had kind of burnout and I've got paralyzed and health issues, very big health issues. And I discovered the resilience word and being also in that time. And I decided to move forward and work for something that I really believe in and where I can fit my core values in my daily life. And the new Jihan is was born, and as a coach and also as teacher. I'm teaching people who want to become a coach, and I developed my own program that became internationally recognized. And it's kind of pleasure. I don't feel that I'm working. I'm just having fun and getting pleasure. I wanted today to share with you just some ideas about resilience and why we are talking more and more about it. As a student or maybe professionals or entrepreneurs or parents or family, we are facing more new situations, problems, death, changing countries, works, lot of question marks and lot of new cases that we cannot handle. And this concept of resilience, as Mr. Rasqali explained it through the emotional intelligence, it's new kind of capacity or ability to handle this new challenges or issues. Why? Because we are living in VUCA world, and VUCA, that means that it's volatile. We cannot take anything for granted. For example, the whole process of of your studies is now going to be changed, and if we can, some things that we had some habits, going outside, moving, traveling. We cannot have all what we had to do as before. So a lot of things are becoming more and more volatile, and also uncertainty that we don't know if we are going to lock down during this Ramadan or not. So tonight we will not have any more French or Spanish visitors. For me, I cannot, particularly I cannot see my brother who is living in Paris, so now he will stay there. We are facing uncertainty daily, and this is our part of adaptability. Complexity also, no, it's complex. You have to move forward, to handle the situation, but also you have to manage your emotion. It's a little bit, it's nice to see this on the slides, but it's a little bit hard to live with it, to practice it, and as you said, it's practice and practice and practice, and really thank you for sharing your presentation to, I think, Shayma and Ali. Very nice examples to share and to show how in your daily life you can practice this part of adaptability. Because it's not easy when you are in complex mode. And it's also ambiguous. Ambiguous, that means a lot of paradox and a lot of yes and no. You can go, but you need authorization. You can do this, but you cannot. And a lot of ambiguity also became, and it's like some salt on our vocab word. And the resilience, this word, it was used for the first time in 1626 by a British philosopher, which is Francis Bacon, and it was, the sense of this word is like rebondir. It's like falling and standing up. This standing up, this is the first meaning of resilience word. Resilience also it's how we resist to the shocks, how we resist to external fights. This is also linguistic meaning. In psychology, we talk about resilience when we are talking about trauma. When we are facing trauma now and we can move it forward, that means that we are resilient. A lot of definition regarding the point of view of philosophy, communication, or linguistic, or also ecology, or IT. This is the more you word. That means that the system can continue to work even if it's down. The system is down. And the main industries who really show us that they are resilient was the banks, because they already had a lot of scenarios with the resilient mode and the resilient process. The organization who are resilient, those are who are really aware of this agility to reinvent their process and to rebuild new way of doing, of thinking, and of producing services and products. And resilience, it's process. That means that it's steps, and it's dynamic process that is not fixed at all, and it's always in a dynamic mode and in moving mode. And for example, the companies who started in March 2020 in resilient mode, in March 2021, they are in totally new way of working in terms of hierarchy, in terms of decision making, in terms of training, in terms of also the way how they are working with the customers and market. So it's process, and even if we are talking about people, and not only organization. People, individuals like you today. That means that when we think resilience, that means that we are talking about something who is growing and moving daily. Every day I have to think out of the box, and I have to challenge myself, but in a smooth way, challenge myself to be in this new, my inner self, as we see it in the emotional intelligence, this inner me and the inner self who is discovering, who having these new glasses every day, every single day, and accepting to welcoming the changes. Welcoming, that means that we are connected to our emotions, we are questioning them, and we are expressing them, expressing our fears, expressing our angers, and developing them every day. I talked here about the resilient organization, and you can also use this definition for you as a groups or as students or a researcher. Excuse me. Normally it's off. And this organization or groups, they show or they prove that when they can reinvent or innovate to be more innovative in very hard time and hard situation, because they as it's this process and it's always in questioning mode to open new opportunities for us as individual or organization or groups to ask ourselves how to overcome, how to overpass the limits, and how to get more and new solution to create new way of doing things. If we continue to do things as we had to do, we will have the same results. But when we start asking ourselves how to make it differently, because the environment has changed. The environment now is with the COVID. The current environment is more digital. The current environment is more open to the world. So how can we be more innovative, and only how can we continue to exist? And the resilience is this way of thinking to be a part of this global change. Environment, agility, and adaptation are the key axes to work on when we think about resilience. Environment is always moving. 2020 is totally different than 2021, than 2022. And I still remember in the beginning of the pandemic, the scientifics, they already said, listen, pandemic, it's more than 3 years of crisis. But the economic side, the capitalistic world, they never wanted to talk about 3 years. Now we are in the second year, and we still have a lot of questioning about this. So this is a really specific environment, and we have to integrate those cases, those scenarios, the best ones, the positive ones, and the negative ones also. And the way how we handle all the negative sides and the positive sides is kind of developing our resilience. The agility is, okay, I have to practice more. I have to practice my languages, my soft skills, my power skills, to challenge myself, to develop more my hard skills also, and to move forward. The great work that you have done, it's really it's fabulous, and congratulations for that. And adaptation, how can I adapt myself in this changing world? Three axes to work on. It's like a map for you. It's like a personal map to take with you every day. How can I change my environment? How can I be agile? And how can I adapt myself? And there is a very nice article in McKinsey. I think it's March. This is current article. Yeah, talking about resilient companies. And if you want to go deeper in this article, they are talking also about managers and team and employer. And they show that resilient companies, in 2020, they realized much better EBITDA bigger EBITDA than the others. Just to have an idea. 6 capacity for an organization, and that we can also have as for individuals. That's goals and their significance. And I really like your work when you talk about personal goals and SMART goals also, and how you can be aware of the SMART goals to fix for yourself and for this year, for this semester, and the next ones, and also how to be independent or autonomous in your work. I really like the way of managing the sleep, managing the food. It's a very great example for that. Your social connections, how to be with the positive people, the smart people who will help you to be in very good mood, and the emotional intelligence that Mr. Scully already explained, how to develop it, how to enhance your capacity to build very strong competencies as intelligence emotional, and how to learn differently every day, how you will work on your learning process. The learning process is not I have exams and I have marks. No, it's learning process and it's learning curve that I have to integrate in my way, in my mindset, my way of doing things, because my environment is always changing. So how can I always learn new things to be not only move forward, but to anticipate on this VUCA world and to innovate my way of doing things, my way of suggesting to this world, to my class, to my future employers, or if I want to become an entrepreneur, my way to how can I innovate to propose new things in order to be really competitive in this world. So these 6 abilities to develop if I want to be resilient, and if I want to develop this ability of resilience in this changing world. And you can do this exercises for the time being. Take the 6 axes and write down what is it for you, and how you can answer to these questions. Just to share better, please, the SWOT exercises, I think Mrs. Zakia Abdelrahman already did it with you. Try to do it in this every 3 months or 6 months. This SWOT analysis for you is a kind of diagnosis for you to know what you do good, well, and what you need to improve more. And it's kind also of a personal or it's like personal check. It's not health check, but it's ability check also. And it's very nice exercises and very easy to do. I think it was just few questions. If you want to answer them, you have the document. We will share it with you, and you can use it. And how can you answer to those questions? How these challenges and issues are that you are facing now? How are you anticipating them? And how can you improve your experience to answer them? And how are these issues are building the risks for you? And finally, how these issues present new opportunities of learning, doing, and seeing things. Just best practice for you, to reinforce your social link, and also have this innovation culture and innovation of doing things in your daily life. And take next step, how can I start my process, and how can I imagine my dynamic process of resilience? Where am I now, and where am I seeing myself in the 2 years, 2 coming years, or in the end of my my studies, 2022, I think. Some reading, if you want to go deeper in this topic. And thank you, Mrs. Zakia, and thank you all for being here and being listening.
Thank you, Mrs. Jihan, for your interesting presentation. And also, I hope that every one of the audience took some notes, because it is a really important presentation, because it will help us in our professional life. And so it is a pleasure having you here with us, so thank you. Now I'm going to present to you 4 SSE students who are going to share their improvement and the experience that they had while improving a specific aspect of themselves. So the first student is going to be Ayman Shaqi. Welcome, Ayman. Are you here?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you, Ali.
Good. Please present your...
Yeah. So, hi everyone. My name is Ayman Shaqi. I'm a cybersecurity second year engineering student in NCS, and I'm here to share with you my personal growth projects, which I was working on for the past 6 weeks, as part of the personal development program initiated and suggested by Mrs. Zakia Abdelrahman, whom I'd like to thank for giving us this opportunity to reflect and to improve ourselves. So, Ali, please confirm, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay, I'm gonna do it. Okay. As you may already know by now, this project consisted of choosing one of 4 personal growth sites to improve. Personally, I choose to work on my intellectual side because I think knowledge is the biggest challenge in a forever development field such as IT, and especially cybersecurity, which is my specialty. So in this presentation, I will quickly walk you through my knowledge development in the past 6 weeks. So we're starting off by introducing the problem. So as you can see in the title, knowledge is easy yet difficult to acquire. In fact, with the huge amount of information available through the internet nowadays, the difficulty isn't just finding information, but rather finding the right information and making sure this information doesn't slip away easily. So personally, I have multiple sources of information such as videos, books, articles, and even games such as CTF competition. And this multitude of information resources can cause a very difficult knowledge acquiring path. So what is the solution for this? I chose two solutions to fix this problem. The first one is ensuring a consistent information gathering routine, and the second is ensuring a practical note-taking method. So I'm starting off by the first one, which is the routine. My routine was reading a minimum of one article daily for the past 6 weeks. And this diagram shows how many articles I managed to read each week. So for example, for the first week, I was really motivated, so I read 12 articles, and you can see the other week. So the second one, as I said, was to ensure note-taking. So for that purpose, I learned more basic digital note-taking practices, which can be summarized in these 3 tips. The first one is finding a convenient note-taking tool. For that, I chose a software named Obsidian, which includes a bunch of interesting features that I personally liked. The notes are stored in the form of Markdown files, which allow easy and simple text formatting. The second tip is choosing the right note-taking method. And for that, I chose the sentence method, which consists of noting the most important ideas in the form of complete sentences. And the third tip is incorporating color and pictures. So after taking the important notes, I take some additional time to style what I typed and make it more appealing to the eye. So here's an example. Here is the interface of the software Obsidian, and here's an example of some notes I took using the sentence method, and while incorporating some colors to make it more appealing. So moving now to the results and achievements. After the 6 weeks have come to an end, I can say that these are the fruits of my work and personal growth. The first one is memorization and overall knowledge. So I can certainly say that my memorization has drastically improved. And in fact, before endorsing this self-growth program, I didn't really put that much effort in taking notes and memorizing the information I received. I just read articles and watched informative videos without having a memorization and note-taking plan. But now, after following these approaches, I have clearer view of my learning workflow and the information flux, and I have a second brain available whenever I need to remember something or some piece of information that slipped away. The second result of this program is self-esteem and self-confidence. And the third one is productivity. These last two results are, I can say that those are some natural results of a successful knowledge program. So I'm gonna finish off by some statistics. So the total number of articles I read in these past 6 weeks are 52 articles. The subjects covered were cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, and programming. And average reading time per week was 72 minutes. And finally, the total number of notes I wrote was 34 notes. So with that, I can conclude my presentation. I can assure you that this program has not come to an end yet, and it will surely take a long time before I can say that I'm satisfied with my knowledge development. So thank you for your attention, and thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing with us your experience. So next we have Nada Stefa. Welcome, Nada. Are you here with us?
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Stefanada and I am a second year SSE student, and today I will be sharing with you my journey to a better memory. Please let me know if you can see my screen. Is it visible? Okay,
Yes.
thank you. So So as for everything else, I started this journey by doing my research. I was looking for answers for these two questions. What affects the memory and what can I do about it? Later on, I found out that there are many reasons for having a bad memory. For example, it can be lack of exercise, electromagnetic field exposure, it can be blue light or even stress. And for the tips for having a better memory, they basically fall within two categories, having a healthy lifestyle and being organized. And for my process, to be honest, during the first 3 weeks, I was confused. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. How can I know if my memory is improving? I think that we can all agree that when working on your memory, you're basically working on the emotional, physical, and mental components, and it can be confusing. Back then, I was still using a physical journal. This is this one on the left. And although I prefer writing things on paper, I hated this method. It had 3 major problems. First of all, the planner was too big for me to carry everywhere I go. It took too much time to customize, and it wasn't easy to share. I actually didn't like it enough to share it anyway. So that's when I decided to switch to a digital bullet journal, and it was a game changer. For this matter, I chose Microsoft OneNote. It is a great software, and as you can see in my digital bullet journal, I have 3 sections: a calendar, a section for my habit trackers, and another section for my weekly planners. For habits, I was focused on physical exercise and brain training games. For physical exercise, I chose running and walking, and I used a step counter because tracking my improvement was extremely motivating. For brain games, I used magazines that contain brain games such as Sudoku and crosswords, but these are games that I used to enjoy way before this challenge, so it was fine. For my planners, that I also like to call my lifesavers, as you can see, the first one wasn't very elaborate. I didn't know how to proceed, and I didn't complete most of the tasks. Week 5 is when I started writing weekly goals, and it was very interesting. I also started paying attention to my diet and my sleep schedule, but they were okay, so I didn't work on them. So using a planner has helped me learn new things about myself and my behavior, like how much I procrastinate, for example, or most of the time I'm not really focused, and that's why I don't remember many things. Today I do feel better about myself. I don't know if my memory has improved, although I think it did. But I know for a fact that if I forget about something, I will find it in my planner, which is great. I also noticed that when writing things on paper, we remember them better, and making planners. Also, everything I wrote on my planner, I could remember clearly. I learned that improving is a lifelong experience. It is a lifelong process. And so I have decided that there are many things I want to work on, including being more disciplined. Overall, I think that this experience was great. I did enjoy it, and so I want to thank our teacher, Belahbar Zakia, for giving us a chance to work on ourselves. As you can see, this journey started with me wanting a better memory, but it became about so much more than just that. So I think this is it for my journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Najwa. Next, we're going to have Usama Qazdar. Welcome, Usama. Are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here. I'll share my screen.
That's true.
See my screen?
Yes, I can see it.
So today I'll be talking about my physical improvement. So my goal for this project was to fix my sleep schedule and do more physical exercises in order to gain a good physical and mental health. Okay. So first of all, I'm going to talk about sleep. So I'm going to talk about the cause of my bad sleep schedule. It was on my first year of preparatory classes. My well-balanced sleep system it was replaced by an unstable and unhealthy one. I went from sleeping around 11 to not sleep around 1:30 or 2 a.m. in the morning. Unfortunately, I dragged this with me to NCS, and even while being distant from school, things have seemed to be changing a lot. The reason for that is that studies usually take a lot, so I didn't have much time to enjoy some free time until I finish what I have to do around 12 p.m. So therefore, I won't sleep until 1:30 and sometimes even 2 a.m. in the morning. The drawbacks, I felt like my health was slowly getting worse. I feel tired all the time. I'm not as energetic as I used to be. My emotional side is still good, of course, but I just feel like the lack of sleep is affecting my health primarily and studies on the other side. Therefore, I decided to take this opportunity to help myself get back to my old system, or at least a little bit closer. Okay. So I'm gonna list here some benefits of sleeping early. Some of them might be obvious, but it's good to know that you will be less stressed, you will be less cranky, you could have a safer commute, and more importantly, moving your bedtime up even by only 60 minutes could have huge benefits on your body, your mood, and also your relationships. Okay, so right now I'm gonna talk about what happened on the first week, and especially on day 1. So things were extremely hard for the first week, like trying to wake up at 9 o'clock for the first day and hoping I would sleep early only actually made me sleep during the day and actually not being able to sleep at night. Even though I was in my bed around like 12:45, I couldn't sleep until 3 o'clock since I had a really long nap. Well, I was practically dead asleep, so I can proudly say that day 1 was a huge failure. Okay, on the next day, we were informed that the tournament my team and I were participating in was going to start the day after tomorrow, so we had to prep that day and the one after. Since I was so excited, the tiredness from the lack of sleep kind of faded off, and I found myself more energetic throughout the day. We kind of prepped for the whole day, and around 12 p.m., 12:15, I felt really tired, and I went to sleep, but still, my body was still programmed to not sleep until the usual time, but I managed to dwell inside a beautiful dream 30 minutes later. Same thing goes to the third day. There was not much difference. I just didn't put much effort into prepping and just focused more on my studies. Day 4. Day 4 was the day of the tournament. We had 3 matches to get to the great final. We were on a roll and we managed to full sweep the other schools and easily got to the finals. We started at 4 p.m. and we finished at 7 p.m. But I felt the sleep kicking in. I managed to fall asleep around 12:30, which is something I haven't done in 4 years, I think. Now for the last day, day 5, it was the great finals, and it would not start until 5 p.m. So I still had the whole day for myself, so I had the idea to start working on my body. Since sleep is part of it, but I wanted to work on my lack of movement and physical exercises, so I went to do some sightseeing on the mountain. It takes a 15-minute walk to get there, but I'm used to it since I used to do it since I was young. The fresh air vacuumed my body in an instant. I actually felt really, really relieved and more energetic than ever. I came back, we won the tournament, and I managed to sleep that day at 12 a.m. Now for my health and body shape. For this part, I decided the video would be more expressive of what I did in order to improve my physical side. So I'm going to share a video with you right now.
Sorry, Osama, but just can you shorten your or
Yeah,
it is
like,
long video?
Yeah, it's just a like 50 seconds video, so it's not that much.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Can you see the video or not?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. That's what I'm trying to do right now. See the house right there? That's source of water, which is the reason why this place is called Aniston. So basically, there's much of the source of water here, like 3,000, and they built this place around it, and that's very much the core of this place. The place here is what we call again the Ghasab. So it's just a fortress which the French people built. You know, that just scout any upcoming resistance from the people of Nimlal or the people of Zayan, which used to live there now. I'm on my way back to home right now, and funny fact, I don't have to move any muscle until I arrive home, so I'm just like this. I don't have to move any muscle until be there in like 20 to 20 minutes. Yeah, she's good. Okay. Okay, so that was my physical movement. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Amara. And the last one is going to be Zainab Human.
Thank you.
Hello, thank you. So I'll share my screen right now. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so first of all, I'll introduce myself. My name is Zainab Human. I'm a second year SSE student. First of all, I'd like to thank our teacher for giving us the opportunity to share our experiences and to be part of this project. So for the dimension I chose is the emotional dimension, and more specifically self-esteem, because I believe that self-esteem is not only important in our personal relationships, but it is also very important in our careers, and improving it can affect our lives really, really much. So to do that, I started with a planner. I had the same planner for the 6 weeks to establish a routine. So from Monday to Saturday, I had 3 main activities. First of all, I had a morning routine. So it consisted of making my bed, having a good skin care routine. Second, meditation. A 5 to 10 minutes meditation every morning when I wake up. Lastly, I write 10 things I'm grateful for every day right before I go to sleep. On Sunday, I added 2 things, a yoga session and journaling. So next I'm going to talk about why I chose these activities. I'll start with yoga. So yoga is known as a physical practice, but it is much more than that. It is also a spiritual practice and an emotional one. And yoga taught me many things. First of all, it taught me to challenge myself by doing difficult postures. But in doing that, I learned also to trust and listen to myself. Trust in my abilities, but also listen to my body and know where my limitations are and be okay with that. Next, set goals and gradually work to achieve them. Finally, it taught me to accept fear. By doing difficult postures or balance-based postures, you literally fall down and get yourself back up, which is quite a metaphor for life. Here I have a few examples of yoga sessions I did in a yoga studio where I met really awesome people. Next, I'm going to talk about meditation. So we all know that meditation helps relieve stress. But more importantly, and the main focus of meditation is to be present, to be in the moment. I like to describe it as a camera pointing in third person and filming from above. With no judgment, being completely in the moment without focusing on the past nor on the future. Being completely present with no judgment of what's going on inside my body or outside. Lastly, it helped me start my day in a good rhythm, be more positive and more motivated to tackle what's going on in my day. Here's an example where I went to the beach and I was meditating there, which was a great experience. But what's great about meditation is you can also do it while walking, so what we call walking meditation. And the best way to do it is in a sunny day at the beach. Next, journaling and gratefulness. So journaling helped me get to know myself better by writing every thought, everything that went through my head, every emotion. So that put things into perspective. And that's a common thing with gratefulness, because by putting 10 things I'm grateful for every single day, I was able to realize how privileged we all are in our lives. Finally, it helped me enjoy the little things. In the beginning, I found it very hard in the first few weeks to find 10 things for that specific day that I was grateful for, but with time, I found it easier and easier, because we can be grateful about even the smallest of things. Speaking of enjoying little things, I always wanted to get back into the habit of reading. And what's the best way to do that? In nature, of course. So to conclude, I started this experience not knowing whether I was going to complete it or whether I was going to meet my goal. I had a lot of doubts. But not only did I finish it, but I also started noticing change in my behavior, in my mindset, and I started noticing changes. So this is not the end of the road, of course, but I'm going to keep doing these activities to keep on improving. And because I believe that it doesn't only take effort to change, but it also takes time. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Zina, for your presentation. So now it is a time for a 5 minutes break, and we're going to come back later.
Okay, just a minute, Ali. I'd like to thank Mr. Sqali and Mrs. Labib Jihan for sharing with us their expertise, and also to congratulate the two students for sharing their experience. Really, it was very awesome, the work they did. And we had, just as Mr. Sqali and Mrs. Jihan said, we had a vision. We were able to see that our students have a vision, and they start working by priorities, and they have some kind of mindset. And I think this mindset allow them to live in more positive states and to see the glass half full and to be a positive. And I think the thing that helped my students to carry on this procedure is the fact that they respect the 4D of change that we have discussed during our class. And I mean by the 4D, the first D is the desire to make change, because if there is no desire, we can't make change. The second D is the decision. You have to make a decision to make the change. And the third D is the determination to go ahead with your change. And the last D, or the fourth D, is the discipline. The students have adopted a kind of discipline to maintain this change. So thank you. And what may I say to you, as I say all the time, yesterday is a history. Tomorrow is a mystery, today is a gift. So we have to work on ourselves to make some introspection and to go ahead and live positively. So let's have a break of 5 minutes, and we will come back to share our graduate students, their success stories. And thank you.
Okay. I want to thank you, Mrs. Zakia, and all the students, to congratulate them. I'm really pleasantly surprised, and I can see deep maturity, real work, and you work a lot. I can see that you worked a lot. Congratulations. I'm happy to contribute. If you need any help in the future, coming future, don't hesitate to contact me directly or throw in Mrs. Zakia. I learned a lot this morning from you, really. I learned a lot. And I'm sure that you will be the change that we need in our country, in our society, you can modelize a lot of things and introduce a lot of new way of doing things. And thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ali. We will come back in 5 minutes. Okay, thank you.